Uglies is based on a book published in 2005, but this story seems to have a shocking, maybe unintended message in 2024. I'm Peter Franson from christiangeekcentral.com and Spirit Blade Productions. The IMDb synopsis for Uglies reads, "A world in which a compulsory operation wipes out physical differences and makes everyone pretty." So that doesn't give you a whole lot, but basically in this world there is a required surgery that happens when you turn 16 to make you pretty, make you beautiful, make you free of any physical imperfections, and according to the ideas promoted, be the ideal you that you've always wanted to be, that's going to make you happy. And it's a really interesting premise, an interesting world. The dialogue feels a bit contrived sometimes, but that comes with the territory of young adult stories. So I think if you're used to that kind of thing and you like those kinds of stories, it may not stand out to you as much. It has a good mix of action and sci-fi elements throughout that flesh out the world visually and conceptually in some mildly interesting ways, but it also borrows from other movies with Back to the Future's hoverboards and the Matrix's mounted gun helicopter rescue being among the most obvious to me anyway. But I suspect that its intended audience of young adults will not be hung up on some of the things that I was with this movie. Probably my biggest issue was the performances. I did not find the emotions believable here. The friendship chemistry between the character Squint and the character Nose in an opening scene felt very false to me, and Shay and Squint likewise felt falsely joyful to me in their scenes as they're kind of bonding and playing around and having little adventures and stuff. And the movie hangs on these friendships. It hangs on me feeling like they really are joyful together. They really are having fun together instead of kind of like this slightly put on laughter, just slightly overstated performances that would, I think, be more fitting on a stage than, in front of a camera. And because it rang false to me, I just was not at all invested in the drama of this movie. Now later, when we go to the community outside the city where people are living more naturally and stuff, there are some stronger performance moments, unsurprisingly coming from older actors, but there still were some improvements around that part of the movie in the younger actors' performances as well, I thought, just not near enough by then to salvage my investment. The visuals are rough. Now, don't tune me out yet, because again, I'm going to get to the really shocking thing about this movie. But I got to get through some of the stuff that just turned me off. The visuals, they're rough. Lots of very obvious blue screen backgrounds, CG actor replacement for stunts that neglect a sense of weight, inertia, just physics that even most average Hollywood movies, I think, do better these days than what I saw in this movie. It just looked very animated and cartoony. I was like, that is not a person. That's not how that person would move if they were traveling on that thing at that speed. Conceptually, the world is somewhat interesting, but it loses me completely because way more than even most movies I watch, it all looks fake. So between the relationships feeling fake to me and the world looking fake to me, this movie just lost me, except for one element that had me very interested from beginning to end. There's an opening sequence where at first I thought, well, this is just going to go kind of a traditionally liberal kind of route, where because of our overuse of fossil fuels, the world just goes to crap, and we have to figure out a new way to do things and stuff. I was like, okay, so another movie that's the cautionary tale of the future, and it's all about, whatever, a green initiative of some kind. But then in that opening monologue that introduces the premise of the world, she says, but something along the lines of, it doesn't fix the ultimate problem, human nature. And I'm like, whoa, oh my gosh. So suddenly we're going to acknowledge here that the real problem of humanity comes down to what's going on in our hearts, what is something deeply ingrained in us that needs to be addressed. Whoa, you don't typically see that coming from just the general trends of left-leaning ideology. And so it had my interest there, and even more as this thing went on, and I saw what they were doing in some very interesting, I wonder, possibly unintended parallels. Okay, so let me restate some of the premise of this movie, okay? a surgery in the middle of puberty that allows kids on the threshold of young adulthood to become the version of themselves they've always dreamed of being. A surgery that promises them not just physical change, but peace and contentment at last with their bodies and with who they are. Does this sound familiar yet? After this surgery, patients, or more accurately as they're portrayed in this movie, victims, are not truly themselves after all. In fact, they are arguably rejecting who they truly are, living a lie that they are now completely convinced of because they've gone all in on this procedure. Now, yes, this story certainly applies directly to our culture's growing sexualized obsession with superficial appearances that was certainly in play when the book this is based on was published in 2005. And I think certainly goes along with showcasing the emptiness found in trying to find fulfillment on that overly sexualized focus on superficial appearances, on that path. But almost 20 years later, that sexualized obsession has evolved. And I'm not even sure that anyone involved in this film understands how well the message of this story applies to gender transition surgery. But it's shocking to me how well it applies, especially given that Dr. Cable, the villain of the movie endeavoring to force these surgeries on children, is played by Laverne Cox, a transgender woman, or in other words, a biological male living as a female. I would almost suspect that Cox regrets their transition, given how this role seems to strongly attach transgender transitioning to an evil society the heroes are trying to break free of. Now, it doesn't do that in the script. I'm just saying the casting seems to do that on a meta level. If they had cast a biological woman in that role, who also had strongly traditional feminine traits, my mind may not have gone as strongly to thinking about transgender issues. But this casting seemed on a powerful meta level to attach that idea to a script that doesn't necessarily evoke it, to attach the idea of transgender issues and transitioning to this script, that the script, I don't think itself evokes it. And so I'm just baffled by that casting move, truly baffled. I would love to get into the mind of the director and Cox and ask them both if they had considered that it might be interpreted this way. I think it's a very likely interpretation of the themes in light of this casting. It's really striking to me what that casting did to my experience. Now, everyone's going to bring their own perspective and therefore have their own takeaways. Maybe someone in favor of so-called gender-affirming surgeries will somehow see a story supporting their perspective here. But the elements I saw fit much more closely as a parallel to pharmaceutical companies who would love to encourage transition surgeries in order to have lifelong customers subjugated by their need of synthetic hormones. Because they are certainly incentivized when that is the case. And it also brings to mind parallels, I think, of places in America where the local government is exercising a heavier hand and taking decision-making away from parents as it pertains to issues of gender dysphoria in their children. Now, I need to say really clearly, I am not an alarmist on these issues. You're not going to hear me, saying really loudly from the rooftops or really loudly anywhere, like, oh my gosh, the government is doing this and that, and we got to take our children out of schools and stuff like that. That's not the camp that I'm in. Our boys go to public schools, and we are helping them to navigate issues related to sexuality in that context, because certainly they are getting ideas presented to them that we would disagree with. But we are content to have them in that environment and to teach them how to navigate and think their way properly through that. So it's not that I'm in a strongly cautionary and fearful camp and therefore embedding my fears into this story as I watch it. But even so, I see some striking parallels, and I can't imagine that I'd be alone in seeing them. It's very, very interesting to me, and I don't know what to make of it. Okay, I have no idea what your tastes are in movies, but if I were a time traveler, I'd go back in time and say, Peter, we'll skip this one. It's it's definitely not for you. Unless it really catches on in a way that makes your boys interested in watching it. Maybe their friends are talking about it and they want to see it or something like that. Then totally sit down, watch it with them, and get ready for a great discussion with them afterward. There'll be a lot to really talk about, think about, react to, puzzle through. Just fascinating on that level. Anyway, This one's rated PG-13 for some violence and action and brief, strong language. And those are all of my thoughts for now on Uglies. All right, I would love, as always, to get your thoughts and reactions in the comments below. Please like, share, subscribe, click that bell to stay connected. I want to thank the Spirit Blade Insiders, for making this review possible. You can get info about the benefits of joining over at patreon.com/spiritbladeproductions. And then I hope you'll check out our podcast and stay connected to all CGC content over at christiangeekcentral.com as we continue to geek out and seek the truth. Hey guys, Peter Franson here. Want to play games to save lives? Then join me again this year for Game Save, our annual charity fundraising event in support of St. Jude Children's Research Hospital, whose compassionate care and cutting-edge research has been saving the lives of children all over the world for decades. Joining the Game Save team only requires a willingness to ask friends and family to consider donating toward your fundraising efforts. Team members also usually do something fun and game-related to draw attention to their fundraising, like a special game night at your church or home, or like me, you can do a crazy 24-hour video game marathon. Now, I'm theming my fundraising around video games, but you can also use tabletop games if you want. What you do to raise funds is entirely up to you, but by joining the Game Save team, you can get support and encouragement from myself, from other team members, and have more attention drawn to your fundraising efforts. You can get more info about the origins and heart behind Game Save itself at gamesave.christiangeekcentral.com. To join the team, make an account at tiltify.com and then click on the team invite link below this video and join the Christian Geek Central team. After that, click on Teams, then the CGC Game Save 24 campaign box. Then on the bottom right, click Create Your Campaign. Follow the instructions to create your own personal campaign in support of the CGC Team campaign. To help your donors avoid confusion, I recommend using your name and the phrase CGC Game Save 24 as the name of your individual campaign. After that, as team leader beginning in October, I provide team members with weekly tips and resources to help make your fundraising as fun, easy, and effective as possible. October is going to be our main push for fundraising, capping things off with my annual 24-hour video gaming live stream on November 9th. Although you are welcome to have your events and continue fundraising until the end of November 30th, when our official final total will be tallied. If you have any questions before or after signing up, you can reach me anytime at paeter@spiritblade.com. I'm happy to help, and I hope you'll consider being a part of this with me. I can't wait to get started. Thanks. Bye.